Okay, we've nailed the problem. We've nailed the possibility. We've talked about the principles. Now it's time for us to dive into the production strategies. Like, what is this shit that we've actually got to be about? What do we got to be doing to pull this off? Let me get my tablet right there. Okay, so our production. All right, so inside of our production game, we're going to look at a couple different ideas. Like ideas that I heard when I first started down the business and marketing path. You know, I've been an entrepreneur for 17 years. But as I started down this path, in the first 10 years, I didn't get it. In the last 7 years, I deeply got it. But it was a conversation that was constantly being introduced to me from the beginning, which is marketing and sales, and ultimately leading people has to do more with psychology than it does anything else. And ultimately, the study of people. So production strategy number one is you must shift the way that you think about yourself as a businessman. I'm not a businessman in the sense of I am a businessman. I am a businessman in the sense that I study marketing and sales and persuasion, but really I'm a psychologist who commits to study the art and science of people. So what does study mean? Well, study is ultimately reading, listening, watching, understanding, people. Reading people, listening to people, watching people, understanding people. This means that you literally are placing on your head and on your mind this frame. Here you are inside of this frame, and you're putting a frame on yourself and saying, I am a psychologist. I am a therapist. Now, this sounds crazy. I get it. It sounds crazy. But I submitted to this 7 years ago. It was actually about 8 years ago, almost 10 years ago now. I submitted to this path of, okay, if I want to be elite at marketing, if I want to be elite at advertising, if I want to be elite at selling, if I want to be elite at leading, then I need to learn and study people, human beings. And specifically, I need to understand people under two realms. One, I need to generally understand how people operate, like why people do what they do. How do their feelings affect how they operate? How does the brain operate when it comes to making buying decisions? How does the brain operate to get what it wants? Understanding men and women and understanding young people and older people and online behaviors and offline behaviors. All of this is a general study of people, and specifically looking at their patterns, studying and looking at their behaviors, studying and looking at their addictions, studying and looking at their desires. But stage one in this is looking at it from a general sense, generally speaking. Now, this becomes lethal as we begin to take that same concept, though, and now we begin to study people specifically, which means we begin to study our target market. Here is our niche. Here is our target market. So when I built Warrior, I went headfirst into this. I was like, generally, I'm going to understand the principles of human beings and human behavior and how they're predictably rational and irrational. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to narrow that focus down to a place of specificity around the niche and the target that I am ultimately desiring to seduce. And in this case, it was married businessmen with children, right? So that was the angle. Now, I ended up building an entire book, literally a manual, 300 pages long, that describes and defines over 7 to 9 years the patterns and behaviors that we have seen inside of people specifically known as male business owners who are married with children. This is why my seduction works, because when I speak from specificity. My second strategy is I must take that study of people and link it up to my increased capacity to communicate and capture attention. So there's an understanding of human beings, right? This becomes this pool, this box, this gift. There's this gift over here called understanding your target, right? You've got this gift that sits over here, my 300-page black book of understanding how you assholes operate. Like that helped because I'm ultimately understanding myself. But now I've got to take that to the next step, which is I actually have to begin to figure out how to communicate what I have uncovered about my product, service, or experience. I must begin to communicate that to the target inside of that particular box or that gift, that niche. My communication is going to happen in two places. It's going to happen on demand, and it's going to happen live. And inside of live, it's going to happen live virtual, and it's going to happen live in person. And my on-demand is going to be experienced across video, audio, text, and image. Look at these two alone. Are you shitting me right now? Look at this. If you don't understand people, but you're trying to become a master in this game of on-demand and live interaction, you're trying to deal with A, B, C, D, E, and F. We have six ultimate targets here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 ultimate frames that allow for us to communicate with another person. But what does this actually have to do? Well, it has to capture what? Capture the attention of the prospect, which means we're not talking about normal communication. We're talking about communication that does one powerful thing, which is it actually captures the attention of the prospect. So there's plenty of communication that happens that does not capture the attention of anybody, right? You can communicate on that cell phone of yours all day long. You can do live stream videos, you can do phone calls, you can walk around and talk to people like a crazy person, a homeless person on the street. Like, you can do whatever you want. But it doesn't mean that you have earned the right to garnish the attention of the prospect. And right now, in today's marketplace, the number one asset that marketers and salespeople like you and I and business owners are fighting for is we are fighting for the attention of our prospects, right? Attention equals money. You gather somebody's attention and you capture the permission for that attention, which means this is another level. It's not just gaining the prospect's attention, but it's getting into a place in which the prospect has raised their hand and they have said, hey, you know what? I actually want to give you my attention. Very much like I want to say thank you for giving you the money, but long before they're going to say thank you for giving you the money, you're going to have to get their attention. And the only way you're going to get their attention, you're going to have to study people so you understand how fucking people work at all. And then you're going to have to specifically study inside of your particular niche how they operate a little bit differently and talk than just general human beings. Then you're going to have to take and figure out how to package that into communication and either communicate that on demand through video, audio, text, or image, or live, virtual, or live in person, and communicate that in a way that actually does what? Captures the attention, but not just the attention, that the attention of the prospect is driven by permission. Which they're actually saying, yeah, I want you to talk to me. That leads us to number 3. Number 3 is, I now must figure out how to convert and compel action. I must convert and compel action. Well, what am I talking about here? Well, now we're right back to the foundation of psychology of people. If I have a prospect, okay, and I'm selling something, let's say it's $5,000 over here, and I have a client who is sitting over here, and this client sitting, oh, it's a very crooked client, I'm gonna draw him a little straighter. I have a client sitting over here, okay, and there's a client that's sitting over here. And this client, in their mind, is a $500 client. And in this client, in their mind, it's a $5,000 client. These two individuals do not think the same at all. Right? This could be a guy who drives a Honda, and this could be a guy that drives a Bentley. Both are cars, both think totally different. Okay, one, the Honda $500 is like, okay, a little bit. To the Bentley, it's like $5,000, no problem, whatever. If I want to get a client to a place where they are actually able to make a decision at $5,000, but their current mindset is at $500, I must convert their mind. And their mind about the world, about themselves, and ultimately about their possibility. And then I must get that individual to lean into with a desire to become this guy. So I'm not just dealing with a shift of the mind, but I'm also dealing with a unleashing of desire, which is the entire process. So I come back to this game of I have to actually study people. Then I've got to learn to communicate, and I've got to to capture their attention and get permission in that capture to continue having their attention. Then I move to 3, which is now I've got to convert. Now that I've got their permission to give their attention, now I've got to convert them from a $500 buyer to a $5,000 buyer. And I've got to, in that process, compel them to take action driven by desire to actually become that other person. Number 4. The final stage is I must close and collect. Which means I am taking a prospect and I'm saying, okay, you've leaned in with desire and your desire has set you up. Okay, fantastic. We've got some desire on our table. We're doing good with our desire. Beautiful. But now I've actually got to take that desire and I've got to change that desire into an actual commitment. Which means I've got to close on you with a big fucking yes. Yes, I want to buy from you. Yes, I want to buy from you. And once I got the yes, I want to buy from you, I now move into what? Now I've got to actually collect the money from you. So our production principles work across these 4. 1, I must study people. 2, I must capture and communicate and capture attention. 3, I must convert and compel action. And 4, I must close and collect. And this entire grid that you see here on the board is the process that sits at the foundation of strategic seduction. And this is a deep fucking conversation, but that brings us to conclusion with our general production principles here in this section.